My Love of Life Energy is a podcast created by Anna Scott. Anna knows that every human being sees life uniquely. In this podcast, she will talk to people and learn from them. These conversations are to shine the brilliance of each human being she speaks to. Join her. After each exploration, you will expand on your insights and see truth and beauty.
Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to my podcast, My Love of Life Energy. And today I have kind of a delight. It's a mystery. Once in a while, I meet somebody who I don't know and I have a short conversation with, and I fall in love and want to know more. And I ask them to come on this podcast because I really believe they have such beautiful gifts to share with humanity. And that is my guest today. His name is Ben Michaelis. He is the author of Your Next Big Thing. And I'm just delighted to have you. Welcome to my show, and thank you for being on it.
Thanks for having me, Anna.
Yeah, it's really an honor. I'm curious. Tell me, why did you write that book?
You know, I wrote the book. It wasn't intended to write a book. I was writing things that were working. This one woman who I was working with, she had come to me, and this is like pretty early in my career, and I honestly, and I wasn't helping her, and it felt really frustrating for me. Like all of the things that I'd learned in school, so I was, a few years out, were just not helpful to this woman, and I at some point just kind of there's like my neighbor, little girl, always waves at me when she comes home from school. So it does things weren't working, and I was feeling very frustrated, and I just at some point just decided to kind of throw everything out, like all the kind of everything that I was taught, and instead what I said was like, all right, let's forget all this for a minute. What I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes. And what I want you to think about is I want you to picture your great, great, great granddaughter. Because the only thing that was like the only bright spot in this woman's life was her daughter. And she was a single mom. And I said, I want you to picture this girl. I want you to try to imagine everything you can about her. Think about where she goes to school, what she likes to do for fun, what she likes to eat for breakfast. Spend some time getting to know her in your mind. And after she was I could tell that she was kind of there, I said, all right, now what I want you to do is I want you to turn the camera around. And I want you to imagine what your great, great, great granddaughter knows about you. What does she know about how you contributed to her life? And I said, now open your eyes and tell me how you contributed to her life. And it was this like moment in my career, which I'll never forget. And she was like, oh, I know exactly what I'd do. Like I will have made her a piece of jewelry to go to her senior prom in high school. And
Wow.
It was like this like light went off for her, for me, like that one thing opened her up. And she started after that, started to learn about how to make jewelry. She hadn't made jewelry. She used to play with beads when she was younger, but she hadn't made jewelry since she was younger. But she started first doing some beading, and then she eventually started to take some metalsmithing classes, and she actually ended up making she was like in the first wave of like Etsy.com, and
Oh yeah.
and it was this moment that suddenly everything shifted for her, and frankly everything shifted for me. And that question that came out of me, it wasn't planned or rehearsed. It was literally out of frustration, and I mean, the implication, of course, in the question is death, right? Your great 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 granddaughter, you're not going to be alive. And so it's a question about legacy and what you do with your time here. And well, again, none of this was pre-planned. And so I started to kind of keep notes about what was working with this woman because nothing else was up until then. And then there were a number of different things, and it was like always, it was not a linear journey. And then one like Christmas time, I was at my in-laws' house, and I was like looking at over my notes, and I was like, if you kind of put this together, it could kind of be a book. And so I started to write a book really about her, and then I won't go through all the machinations for the publishing part, but then I ended up broadening it, but it was really about this one woman.
It's really funny. You said a word, and when you were telling me the story, there's something you see about legacy and lineage.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, we only get one shot at this as far as we know. And, it is about, like, if you're spending your time doing things that don't align with what's important to you, it's going to be not a very pleasant journey. But if you're doing things if you're spending a lot of your time doing things that are in line with what's important to you, and again, whether or not it's sort of necessarily remembered or not is less important than like if you're contributing to a whole, a collective, you're going to be happier. It's, as someone that's worked with very, very wealthy people, I can tell you, look, it's not that money doesn't matter. Anyone that tells you that is not telling you the truth. Money does matter. Having enough money to take care of yourself and your family does matter. But beyond some point, it not only doesn't it matter, it does it not matter, but it's like I think it's a detriment, because you can think that that's what the pursuit is about, which I often see, and I'm sure you have as well, as opposed to like these other things. And if you're spending your time doing something that gives you joy and meaning, you're just going to have a much better ride.
And a therapist, a coach, correct?
I'm sorry, say that again.
You went from therapist to coaching, correct?
I did, yeah. I think that the traditional therapeutic model is a deficit model. It's what's wrong with you. And it's, the language of it is deficit, like you're a patient, you're ill. And it doesn't feel right to me. I never liked the term patient. I actually don't like the term client either, I have to say. I don't think that feels too businessy, and patient feels like they're, sick, which I don't think that most people are, or at least the people that I work with. And so the idea of being able to contribute differently, use the knowledge and wisdom in a different way where you're really partnering with someone is just much more who I am. I mean, it just feels much more natural to who I am as opposed to, yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask you a question? I'm so fascinated by that. Then really curious. Now you have me curious. Because I think language is so important. What name or how do you call the people you work with?
Anna, I have not solved that problem. I've come up with all kinds of terms. They're always clunky. I don't like them. The thing that I say is the people that I serve. That's the term.
Oh my
God. But it's even that just feels so clunky.
I don't know that's. I actually am going to challenge you on that one, Ben, because I just felt that was the truest thing I've ever heard.
Huh. Well,
when I laugh like that, I've heard a truth bomb. I know that enough about myself. And I'm like, oh, that's why I love you, is because you know that your design is here to serve people.
Well, I think I may have mentioned this when we spoke, like my name is Benjamin. And the Hebrew for Benjamin is Binyamin, which is son of my right arm, which I've always interpreted to be like the son of, that serves me, that of service. So
it fits you so it fits you so beautifully. And the thing that I love about what you did with the story you just told is your commitment to serve this woman as you threw out everything you learned.
Look, all of this, all the learning is only as good as its utility. And that's part of why, when you asked me about switching over from being just a pure therapist to being a coach, like, I think that a lot of times people have insight through the therapeutic process, but if it's not applied, it's not actually helping them, I don't believe, or not helping them to a degree that I think is appropriate. And so if you know that you're doing something that is not, you know, not not serving you, but you keep doing it, like, I don't know that that's that helpful, frankly.
So what is it that you love to do with people now, the people that you serve?
I think that there's something sacred about the relationship that you have with the people that you serve. It's one of the few, like, because and I actually don't know if it's the same for coaches, like, per se, or what state law is, but, like, as someone that has a license, that is a licensed, clinical psychologist, what I say to the people that I work with is protected by law. And there's just so few spaces that are just safe anymore in this world. And so being able to provide someone with a safe space where they can explore and play with ideas with no fear of judgment or reprisal, like, then you can do some pretty amazing things. One of the people that inspired me is Fred Rogers. I mean, he was all about play and, like, you know.
So I knew I loved you. I just, like, every time, I've only talked to you twice and I keep falling more in love with you. Sorry about that. So go on
okay.
about Fred.
Yeah, just that, like, he was incredibly sophisticated person, understood what he was doing on a very deep level of providing a place for play with boundaries. And that's when you do that for someone, the possibilities of what they come up with are tremendous. As long they feel safe, they know that there's a place to play, but there's also going to be some boundaries around it. Like, that's the ideal environment. And so when I'm serving someone, if you can develop that kind of rapport where you're just working on stuff collectively, and they know that you're in their corner. It doesn't mean that you have all the answers, because I definitely do not. In fact, I tend to think that the people that I serve have their own answers. I'm just there to facilitate their own process. More times than not, that is the case. They know what they need to know. They just don't know that they know it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm spend my time doing. But, you do this work when it's working, and you're feeling connected and you're serving someone, like, it's.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
It's what does serving mean to you?
This kind of goes back to that legacy thing again, like, keeping their best interest in mind, but also, like, especially if they have kids, or they're going to have kids, or they serve anyone for generations, like, that you're keeping their needs in mind. So, like,
wow.
If, for example, you're working with someone that's in a dysfunctional relationship, you have to be thinking about their kids, and, like, what the implications are for their kids and their kids, because we learn how to be intimate from our families. And so if they're getting lessons of, like, intimacy is about dysfunction, or at worst violence, that becomes a intergenerational legacy. And so figuring out ways to try to apprehend that.
Wow. Again, there's something about legacy that fascinates me. I mean, you've used that word, I think, 4 times since we've spoken, maybe 3, but I like to exaggerate to make a big picture. Um,
Don't we all?
I know. Um, what is it that you see? Because you something about legacy, you see something there that I'm curious about, that I
I'm sorry.
can't see, that I can feel it.
You're just so you know. I don't know if you're seeing it. You're cutting it in and out a little bit. I don't know if
Oh
it's.
no,
So I hope it's not recording that. At least on my end, it is. So I couldn't hear the question. Can you say it again?
I'm sorry. So are you see something about legacy, and I don't know what it is that you see. And I'm curious because I think you can point people to what's happening that they don't see.
I'm so sorry. I can
Okay,
point
all right,
people
I'll
to.
try. All right.
I can point people to.
To what with legacy, there's something you see that other people don't see.
Hmm.
That, and I'm wondering what it is you see, because I think it's common to you. It looks like obvious, where it's not obvious to other people.
You know, um, um, Richard Dawkins, um, you know, who's an evolutionary biologist or ethologist, who wrote the book The Selfish Gene back in I think '73, wrote a book that he said it was in his most important book, but that nobody read, called The Extended Phenotype, which was he wrote in I think '82. And in this book, he talks about the sort of intergenerational nature of personality and inheritance, and that the example that he uses is the beaver, and I think there's a beaver on the cover. That a beaver doesn't make a dam because it's taught to make a dam. A beaver makes a dam because it's a beaver. And if you look at patterns of behavior of beavers, beavers make dams in the same way that their parents did, not because their parents taught them to do it, but because, at least in Dawkins's idea, there's units of behavior that are passed down generation to generation.
Oh, wow.
And I think that that's the case for so many things. I actually don't believe our morality is something that on the edges we learn, but our morality is in our DNA. And there's great work by Jonathan Haidt at NYU that sort of, I think, demonstrates this pretty conclusively, that our morality is passed down in our DNA, and our behavior is passed down in our DNA. And so decisions that we make are behavioral decisions, and you and I talked about this when we last spoke, this idea about energy, your energy gets passed down too. And so if you can help someone to just help them with their patterns of behavior and energy and things of that nature, it has a ripple effect for generations.
I just get the sense of power and importance to what you're doing.
That's kind of you. I hope so. I appreciate that. I hope so.
If somebody wakes up and they change how they treat their wife or their kids, then that gets, all of a sudden, I hadn't seen that till right now. I mean, I saw that the kids, but it never occurred to me that it's going to go down the line. It's going to go further down the generations. I had never seen that till right now.
Well, that's cool and exciting. I mean, there's the work that's been done has been on intergenerational trauma. I'm sure you've read some of that or heard some of that. It's just, but it's going to work both ways.
I just, it's like you've never, when you see something new and you'd never seen it before, you kept on saying it. And I know there's something really rich here that you see that I hadn't seen.
Well, that's, and you're, as you said, you're very good at this. You ask the right questions and it unlocks the right doors. So,
but the thing is that the thing that you did, that you see the power of this. I mean, you may, when you connect it to your children, your children's children, your children's children, all of a sudden the desire to wake up or whatever would get in the way of you, you have more, there would seem more energy or more desire to do the transformation or to let go of the fears or whatever's in the way. Like it just seems to be a bigger, there was an Aikido move I did one time where they had like 4 people me, and they were all Osensei's teachers. Aikido's a martial art. Osensei's the guy who created it. And I could feel the generations moving through me. I just didn't know that it was going to keep going further down.
That's interesting.
And that's what you see clearly.
Yeah, it's interesting. You don't, for me also, like, these things seem, just like with anyone, like things that you're used to seeing become habit for you. And so this is why when we go on vacation or we go to a different location, we see things differently, and it helps. Contrast is the essence of vision. You can't see something until you see it the other way.
Right. But the obviousness, this just seems obviousness. And the thing that I get from you, and the space that you're creating is so sacred because it holds all the generations. So the space just isn't between you and this person. There's this generational space too that's included in it.
That's so interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way. But like, honestly, for better and worse, Anna, there's a couple that I don't usually work with couples. I don't work with couples anymore. There's one that a romantic couple. I do work with business couples, but or business partnerships, but there's this one, and I said to them, like, whenever they fight, I feel like there's just like a ton of people in the room, because for them in particular, there's like an intergenerational fight happening. But I guess I didn't realize that, like, yeah, it does make sense though. By opening up and being a good space and a good vessel, you allow for those generations to show up.
Well, I think you see, I mean, the beaver example is so perfect. I mean, I just had never seen it till you told me, but that you're holding that and you can see the continuum of life. And in this one moment that the trajectory forward's changing. That to me, like, excuse me, but that's a holy effing moment to me. Never seen it. I know it would go to the kids. I'm like, oh yeah, great.
But so here's a thought experiment that from one book that I read many years ago. So what we'll do it right here in vivo, okay? So I want you to picture your mother, then picture your grandmother, then picture your great-grandmother, now great-great-great-grandmother, now great-great-great-great-great-great, go back a million times. What do you see?
Nothing.
But you know what's there?
Everything.
It's an organism. It's a fish. Or beyond that, it's a microorganism.
Wow. God, my mind is being blown at this. Because what I see is that it's like the evolution of consciousness.
Say some more about that.
It's like in the moment and becoming really present to all of that, consciousness evolves. And then what really, it's like I think about it, like if consciousness, it's like going on a slow But when they come to work with you, it goes on this big arc up. And then everything that follows that arc up too. So there's a different fuel and trajectory. I just had never really seen that before. That's really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I can feel when you said the thing that I felt in you, and I just keep on feeling, is the love that you do it for people, with people, from a place of love, of not, it's just so apparent.
That is kind, and I really do believe that to be true. I mean, I think I told you I made, rules about the people I'll work with.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not for everyone, and everyone's not for me. That's for sure. And the people that I work with, I do love, and I let them know that, because, but both sides of that coin are there. Like, I can't, you can't do that if you, like, pardon me, but if you love everybody, then you don't love anybody. And so, like, choosing and being really thoughtful about it, I think, is a really, really conscious of it, is a really important part of that.
Yeah, it's the work that I do is based on Sid Banks, and I was listening to him, and he talked about the problems that we have. We can't solve them from the intellect. It has to come from love. And that's what I feel in you, is that why you're successful is you come from this place of love, which is the most powerful energy.
I think that's right.
That's cool. I think so. If people are lucky enough to meet you and work with you, and if you want them, how do they find you? How do they get so blessed to find you? And
you're this is all going to go to my head, Anna.
Please do.
No. No, people, I have a website, drbenmichaelis.com, and you said Dr. Michaels. It's Michaelis. There's an IS before the S.
Sorry.
So that's
sorry.
Okay. Just letting you know that. No worries. So it's drbenmichaelis.com, and like all of, a lot of the things that I've done are on there, and writings and things like that. So you can kind of get to know me and see if it's a good fit.
So if you just want to change the lineage and trajectory of your family and raise consciousness.
You just want to do that, if that's what you're thinking about doing.
Yeah, if you just want to do that, fine, Ben. And I apologize. I saw it and didn't read it all the way.
No worries. No worries.
It has been just an honor to talk to this with you today.
Well, likewise. I really enjoy it, and I can't wait to get to know you more.